There are tons of cameos in this movie because that was a big thing in the beach party films. You'd have cameos from the likes of Buster Keaton had appeared in a few of them. Linda Evans would appear in a few of them. Some of these stars would just appear in like little roles in these original beach party films, and this film is no different from that.
Welcome to the Video Store Geek Podcast, where your friendly neighborhood world film geek Albert Valentine talks about films made and released during the golden age of the VHS era.
Hello, my fellow tape heads. Welcome to the latest episode of the Video Store Geek Podcast. And we're still surfing in June. Our first stop was Hawaii's North Shore, and now we're heading to Los Angeles and heading back to the beach. Now, before we delve into the film, it's time for a little history lesson for those who have never seen this film and wonder why it's called Back to the Beach. Let's travel back in time to 1963, when the Arkoff brothers of American Independent Pictures decided to make the first of the beach party films. There were 9 films from 1963 to 1967, and the two who became icons as a result were teen idol Frankie Avalon and former Mouseketeer Annette Funicello. If you have heard of Disney Channel's Teen Beach movies, or that one scene in Tom Hanks' 1996 directorial debut, That Thing You Do, where the Wonders are on the set of a beach movie, these films were the inspiration behind them. Now, the films had some tropes, the same things. The two leads who were lovers had a falling out, singing about their sorrows and eventually getting back together. Then there are the rivals. In this case of most of these films, we had Harvey Lembeck as Eric Von Zipper, the leader of a local biker gang. And there's also dancing. Lots and lots of dancing. So anyway, Frankie Avalon left. He missed out on 2 of the films, including the final films of the series, 1967's Thunder Alley, and was replaced by teen idol Fabian. However, people never forgot the chemistry between Frankie and Annette that made the beach party films what they were. So then we're going to flash forward 2 decades later, 1987, and Frankie and Annette return to the beach. And this is quite an interesting and fun film that not only brings back the tropes of these original series of films, but adds a story of redemption, especially for Frankie. Um, Funny enough, Frankie Avalon is credited in the film as Annette's husband, but throughout the film, he is called the Big Kahuna. That's quite funny. So we're gonna delve right into the film, and we're gonna start with we're just gonna get right into it. Let's just get right into it. So, in a nod to Harvey Lembeck's Eric Von Zipper, we have an opening narration from Frankie and Annette's son Bobby, played by Damian $2 Slade. And if you know the film the nickname came from, then you're definitely either a tape head or an 80s film fan or both. So anyway, we see past clips of Frankie and Annette in their pre-beach party days. So you see Frankie singing the song Venus, which made him a household name. You see Annette in the Mickey Mouse Club in the 50s. And anyway, we learned that after the beach party movies, their characters had gotten married, but a surfing accident had caused Frankie to give up the sport, and he ends up becoming a car dealership in Ohio, of all things. And Annette is the typical housewife who has a fixation with peanut butter, and that kind of ticks Bobby off because he's sick of having peanut butter every day, and he tries to tell her. But anyway, they decide to take a vacation because Frankie is burnt out and he just needs to take a break. So they're planning to go to Hawaii, and Bobby warns the audience via a fourth wall break because a lot of the opening narration, he's looking at the camera the whole time. Anyway, he warns that every night Frankie has this tradition. When dinner is served, he talks about the surf accident, the one that made him give up surfing. Now, this also leads to one of the funniest running gags of the film, where we see Bobby and his dad going at each other constantly, and Annette has to be like the peacekeeper between the two. But anyway, after a little fight, and just when dinner's about to get served, here he goes again with the surf accident story, and Annette breaks it up and tells them that they're not actually going to Hawaii first; they're going to L.A. to see their Sandy, who is Frankie and Annette's older daughter and Bobby's sister. And this leads to Frankie doing something unimaginable. He just gets up in front of everyone in the plane, And I'm gonna have to imitate this because you can understand why everyone's gonna bring out their barf bags after this. But he goes something along the lines of, Sandy, my little baby, my honey bunny, my lammy whammy. And the whole entire plane lets out their barf bags, and then we get the opening title sequence where everyone's on the beach and all that crap. So skip to that. They're at the airport in LA now, and this is where we get another trope of the beach party films that I should mention. There are tons of cameos in this movie because that was a big thing in the beach party films. You'd have cameos from the likes of Buster Keaton had appeared in a few of them. Linda Evans would appear in a few of them. Some of these stars would just appear in like little roles in these original beach party films, and this film is no different from that because the first cameo we get is O.J. Simpson as he's picking up his luggage, and he starts fumbling himself so much that I have a feeling that this was the inspiration for the character of Nordberg in the Naked Gun trilogy because after seeing this, that's when the Naked Gun came out, and you see O.J. Simpson playing the clumsy Nordberg, and you got to think about that because Back to the Beach and the Naked Gun films were all done by Paramount Pictures. I'm just saying, maybe the role of in Back to the Beach, the cameo shows that he could play physical comedy, and and so anyway, Frankie's not happy about going to the beach. Actually, he has his reservations. But Annette's all for it. She's all excited about going back to the beach, and you know, Frankie's surf accident really messed his head up. So they're on their way to see Sandy, and Frankie starts complaining that Sandy's living on a pier, and it goes weird things happen on a pier, and that's like, well, it's adorable. So anyway, while we got that, we meet Sandy, and she's played by Rad in the future Becky of Full House, Lori Loughlin, and she lives with local surfboard shaper Michael, played by Tommy Hinkling, and they're engaged. Well, they're kind of engaged. He wants to marry her, but Sandy has an issue. Her dad hates surfers, and we all know why because of what happened. They really screw with him. So every time she writes a letter to him, she doesn't say anything about Michael, and it's because, and Michael feels like, you're old enough now, just come out in the open, tell them about us. But she's not ready to do it yet. And when they finally get to the apartment, which is on top of a bait shop, by the way, um, Sandy has to hide Michael, and Michael ends up flying out the window of their second floor apartment to the water. And Frankie notices all this stuff, and all of a sudden he sees the surfboard, and he realizes that Sandy is with a surfer, and he takes Bobby to the beach with him to find him. So as they're looking for Michael, we soon meet the antagonist of the film, the Eric Von Zipper of the '80s, ladies and gentlemen, and his name is Zed, played by the late great Joe Holland, or Peter Joe Holland. I think that his real name was Peter Holland, but he went by Joe Holland in this. He is the leader of a punk rock surfer gang. And he says that this is his beach and he is God. And Bobby, I don't know what he did. He just said he has a wild and different opinion. And Zed immediately likes Bobby. He's like, I like the kid. But he does not like, and he calls Frankie the guy with the hair helmet. And that is a little gag that comes on Frankie's little bouffant 1980s hairstyle, which are all like, I don't know. I can't even describe it. You guys see it for yourself. You see the posters, you know what I'm talking about. But that's a little gag that um there's a gag about Frankie's hair in this movie that runs for a bit. But anyway, Frankie still has his reservations, and they're getting ready to go to Hawaii that night, and he's ready to leave. But they drop Sandy off at her job, which is like this little local surf nightclub, and we get another cameo. This time it's from Ed Burns of Sunset Strip 66, a classic 1960 series. He's also known as Kooky. So there's a famous song with him goes Kooky, Kooky, what a guy. And I can't believe I'm singing this episode, but anyway, he's the valet, and he recognizes Frankie instantly. Again, Frankie's referred to as the Big Kahuna in this movie, but yet I'm still referring to him as Frankie throughout this whole thing. But anyway, they get to the nightclub, and all of a sudden another. Well, this one's not really a cameo. This one is more of she's a co-star in this. Connie Stevens shows up, and she plays their old friend Connie, who instantly gets flirtatious with Frankie, and then she gets to meet, she realizes that he married Annette, and she's all happy for them. And somehow, Annette's now it's the opposite. Frankie's getting all excited, Annette's getting the one getting reservations, and Annette's ready to leave. But then Connie's like, "Oh, you're not guys are not gonna leave without singing a song." And Frankie decides he's gonna sing a song. And now we get another cameo because, well, they'll say an appearance, but the nightclub musician is none other than Dick Dale. He's known as the king of the surf guitar. He appeared in many of these beach party films in the 60s, and perhaps his most famous song is Misirlou. You probably heard that song in the Pulp Fiction trailer. They spoofed it in Space Jam. The infamous one that, the not infamous, excuse me, the famous one that goes. Okay, I'm done. I'm not. I gotta stop there. Anyway, so they all start singing California Sun with Annette, Sandy, and Bobby looking on, and you can see Annette is really ticked off. Sandy is like in a state of shock. Bobby's like has that what the hell am I doing here look. But anyway, she after the song, they're getting ready to leave, and Annette finally confronts Frankie about him just changing his tune all of a sudden once they got there. And Annette feels like she was being neglected by him, and having all these reservations, and now he's all excited again after meeting Connie. So they decide they're not gonna. She decides she's not leaving. She's staying in LA. And then what happens is Michael and Sandy have an argument that night because Michael learns that Annette and Bobby are going to be staying for a couple of days because of what, she was trying to tell him what happened. Michael feels like he's being neglected now because he feels like they should just get out in the open about everything, but she still has Sandy still's reserved about it. So Michael kind of dumps her that night. And Frankie is getting drunk off the Stun Mullet, which is fruity alcohol drink that they serve. It's like one of their specialties. And what's funny is Michael mentions the show Gilligan's Island. He goes, "Am I dreaming, or is this like the story to Gilligan's Island?" Because I have to mention that because the bartender is played by Bob Denver, and clearly some of the stories he's telling Frankie while giving him the Stun Mullet, it's clear that he's credited as the bartender, but it's clear this is supposed to be Gilligan. Because if you've seen Gilligan's Island, there was an episode of a TV movie, excuse me, in 1980s called Return from Gilligan's or Escape from Gilligan's Island, where they finally escaped from the island and returned home. So that's what's led to believe that Gilligan is the bartender here. Anyway, the next morning, Frankie wakes up in the beach home of Mountain, a local surfer who gets updates on the wave of each beach in the area. And Michael shows up, and Frankie doesn't recognize him yet, but Michael helps him with a concoction of instant coffee, Alka-Seltzer, and a Coke, claiming that Keith Richard lives on this. So all of a sudden, Frankie drinks the whole thing, and he's instantly cured. And upon learning who he is, when he goes, "Is it okay if I marry your daughter?" Frankie wants to kill Michael off right off the bat. He starts choking him. They have a little argument, but then they realize they overcome their differences, and they end up becoming friends. And the next day, you see um, Michael at his job surfing, shaping surfboards, and Frankie's like, what do you do for a job? He goes, "This is my job." He goes, "Oh, you get paid?" He goes, "No." He goes, "You don't sell these surfboards?" He goes, "No." I give him. He goes, "What do you do? Give them away?" He goes, "Yeah, that's what I do." He goes, "Listen, buddy, if I was thinking about getting married, I'd start being a little responsible and start selling these. You can make a little money and help you with the wedding and all that." So, um, Frankie also learns that Connie is Michael's mother, and Frankie thinks that him and Connie were together at one point. So he's like, "Could he be mine?" Connie's like, "Will you stop? We never did anything. We did? No, I thought we did." Anyway, it's revealed that Michael's father was another mutual friend of theirs, a guy named Spud, who was Connie's first husband. And anyway, at the beach, Annette is with Sandy and her friend Robin, and they start talking about how they can possibly get the guys jealous and what the guy would do to win them back. And then they break into a song called Jamaican Ska with Fishbone, the band Fishbone, appearing. And they get into this big musical number, and Mikey and Frankie are afar, and they start, everyone starts having fun. It's this big, elaborate musical number. And then Frankie comes up with a good idea. He goes, back in the day, we used to have a beach party, and, whenever we got into an argument, and we start talking and getting over our stuff. So he's told Michael we should have a beach party. Problem is that the new harbor master won't allow permits after dark. So they decide to meet with the harbor master next day to try to convince him. And the harbor master here is played by ding ding ding, another cameo, and that is Don Adams of Get Smart and Inspector Gadget. And they somehow convince him that he's getting an award, and because of that, the harbor master gives him the permit for the beach party. And so we get to the beach party. Sandy and Michael finally make up. Michael finally meets Annette, and Sandy is shocked to learn that Michael began to sell the surfboards rather than give them away, and she's quite impressed with what Michael's been doing, and he'd had some growing up to do, and he's finally doing it. Meanwhile, the harbor master shows up, learns that he got tricked, so at the last, in a desperate attempt to keep the party going, Frankie gets Michael to get this girl named Bridget, who's the 80s typical beach bimbo in these type of movies. And when she introduces herself, it's so funny because it's all like, "Hi, I'm Bridget," and all of a sudden the harbor master's like, "She's got asthma." Oh, what the hell? So anyway, the party's going on. Annette catches Frankie and Connie hugging after they have this little conversation, and Annette gets, so once again she's ticked off. So she gets this hunky, stereotypical surfer guy named Troy, and they hit the waves together. Frankie catches him. He gets pissed. He's confronting Annette. All of a sudden, the Troy tries to get involved, and Frankie knocks him out with one punch. And then she finally Annette finally confronts Connie about the situation, and Connie reveals that she never saw Frankie that way. She always saw him as a friend, and she sees that Annette and Frankie were meant to be together. So she tells Annette, "You better make up with Frankie. If I were you, I'd get my butt over there and do it." So they eventually they do talk and they reconcile as well. And then we get another elaborate musical number, courtesy of one of the greatest of all time, the long lost Paul Rubens, aka Pee Wee Herman, who comes out to sing Surfing Bird with the cast, and all of a sudden he literally flies off the screen on a surfboard, and I'm not joking. It's like this glowing aura comes around him, and next you know he's flying off the screen on a surfboard. So, thanks to Bobby, we learn, because I'm mentioning that he warned us earlier in the film about this, but once you hear, "Man, great dinner," we finally learn the surfing accident that caused Frankie to give up the sport. So here comes the story. So while he was out surfing one day, a monster storm from Australia came, and it's called the Humunga Kawabunga from Down Under. It came to the shores of California. It knocked Frankie so bad that he ended up going to the hospital, and that's when he decided to give up surfing. And everyone's like really shocked and sad to hear the story of why he would give up a surfer, because um earlier in the film, Frankie wondered what the hell a kahuna was. And according to Michael, it was like an Italian loan shark. It's like a nickname for an Italian loan shark. I don't know if that's true. I really don't. I did not do my research on that. But anyway, at this point, Zed shows up with his buddies, and that includes Bobby. Bobby joined the gang, and Bobby gave himself a new nickname. His name is Surly. He goes, "Call me Surly." So of course Frankie hears it, and he's going, "Shirley? Your name is Shirley? Bobby is a much tougher name than Shirley." And then Bobby's like, "Not Shirley, Surly, Surly. That's it. I'm changing my gang name. My new gang name is," and he consults with Zed, and almost he goes, "Knife. My name's Knife." And then Sandy gets in on it. She goes, "Nice? Your name's Nice? Okay, nice hairstyle. Nice." And Bobby's like, "It's not nice. It's not nice." Finally, he decides to hell with the gang name. But anyway, what happened is Bobby had stolen his dad's credit card and they bought these new ATVs. So Zed informs everyone that this is his beach and he is God. And then Frankie's like, you know what? That's it. You want to settle this once and for all? We're gonna do it like in the old days. We're gonna have a surfing contest. So Zed is gonna represent of course, the gang. As for the good guys, Frankie nominates Michael to to surf for them. But unfortunately, Frankie makes a huge and terrible mistake. In a bold move to make the stand that tonight it was their beach, Frankie plants a Congo drum right in the sand, but unfortunately he shoved Michael's foot in there with it, impaling his leg, impaling his foot, and Michael ends up with a broken foot. So this is where we're going to see the second redemption arc because Frankie decides he's got to overcome his fear for the sake of the people at the beach. He breaks out his 9-foot surfboard and decides to surf against Zed. And I think if you've seen the beach party movies, you know where this is going. So that's Back to the Beach for you. It is quite a fascinating, fun revival of the beach party genre. Now, gotta mention a few more cameos in this movie. That's totally worth it. So we have Stevie Ray Vaughan, who has a one scene cameo performing with Dick Dale. They're performing, I forgot the name of the song. It's one of those classic surf tracks. And then you have in the surfing contest, Barbara Billingsley, Jerry Mathers, and Tony Dow from Leave It to Beaver. Barbara plays the MC, and Jerry Mathers and Tony Dow play the judges. And there is one more cameo at the very end of the film, but I can't reveal who. I don't want to reveal who it is because that's kind of like spoiling things in a way. But you definitely should check out this movie. And there was a sequel planned. I will tell you, there was going to be a sequel where um they had planned to go to Africa for the next installment, but unfortunately, what happened was Annette Funicello was diagnosed with multiple sclerosis at the time of the release, and so the very last thing you see with the two of them is it's a little shot that Annette goes, "Are we the corniest couple you've seen or what?" And sadly, Annette Funicello passed away in 2013 at the age of 70 from complications from multiple sclerosis. Frankie Avalon is still alive. Lori Loughlin, everyone knows what happened to her, Full House, and the Hallmark Channel, and the other stuff after that. Now, I haven't heard much about Damian Slade since then, since Back to the Beach, but I do know his brother is Max Elliott Slade, who played Colt in the first two Three Ninjas films. But yeah, overall, this was a fun movie. I grew up watching the beach party movies before Back to the Beach came out. So when Back to the Beach was coming out, I was really excited because my mom got me into the original beach party movies. And I will say, tell you my favorite one of them all. It's 1965's Beach Blanket Bingo. I would highly recommend that. That's my favorite one of the beach party films. But there's other ones like Beach Party, How to Stuff a Wild Bikini, the girl with the invisible bikini. That's the only other one that Frankie Avalon didn't appear in. And there's these other characters in the original Beach Party films, and I'll give you a little bit if on one of them. John Ashley played Frankie's best friend in this Beach Party series. He would go on to make films in the Philippines as an actor and producer. I think his most famous one was Night of the Yellow Beast, where he also played the monster. And then in the 80s, John Ashley went on to produce one of the greatest 80s series of all times, and that's a little show called The A-Team. So that should be brought up. So my final rating on Back to the Beach, it's definitely an A because like I said, I grew up watching the beach party films. This film was exactly what I would expect a beach party film to be in the 80s, bringing that revival back. And it has some fun musical numbers with Jamaica Ska by Fishbone, Pee Wee Herman's Surfing Bird. And yes, I do know the song now. It's Pipeline with Stevie Ray Vaughan and Dick Dale. That was phenomenal to see. So yeah, I'm giving Back to the Beach an A. This was a fun and wild beach movie, and yeah, you get a chance to find it, because it's loads of fun. If and this is one for the kids. You kids can even watch this. And there's some innuendos in there, but still, it was rated PG, and it's definitely worth it. And definitely check out some of the older beach films, if you can, if you're and so yeah, I know the Disney Channel had the Teen Beach movies, but really go back to the 1960s and start watching these other beach party films with Frankie and Annette. Trust me, it's totally worth it. And check out Back to the Beach as well. So we're going to be staying in LA on June 29th. We are going to this time a weird a weird alternate LA where it's an homage to both the 60s beach party and 70s horror as we delve into Surf 2. And yes, there is no Surf 1. This is a parody of the beach party meets horror film. Some could have inspired Psycho Beach Party, but we're going to be doing that on June 29th on the Video Store Geek podcast. And then we're going dancing in July. And if you guys haven't not seen any promos for it yet, they are up. First episode will be on salsa, and then we're going to go into the Lambada War of 1990 in a double episode because I'll be talking about two films in particular with that instead of one. So remember, guys, check out the Video Store Geek podcast on YouTube and Spotify. We're also on XM and Blue Sky. Check out indieworldcinema.com for the latest in independent and world cinema, micro budget stuff. We got some up. We got next month. We have the Hall of Fame presentation, and we got some upcoming interviews that are in the works, and on Indie World Cinema. And once again, guys, as always, be kind, rewind, and stay awesome. And I'll see you on the 29th.
Thank you for listening to the Video Store Geek podcast. Don't forget to check out worldfilmgeek.com for the latest reviews, interviews, and news in the world of indie and global cinema. And see you on the next episode of the podcast. Stay awesome, film geeks.